If you want to understand a place, visit the home of an ordinary local family. Today, I'm taking you to Nghệ An, a rural province in central Vietnam.
Rau cần này, ớt chuông này.
I'll be spending the next 3 days here. I'll meet a man who has spent his life preserving pieces of the past. A woman many people believe has a very special gift. And for the first time in my life, I'll take part in a traditional ceremony that many Vietnamese families have preserved for generations. But first, let me introduce you to a man named Dao. I think his story might surprise many of you. We arrived around noon. This is Mr. Dao's house. I know him because I work with his son-in-law, and this was my first time visiting his home. While we were talking, I learned that he had recently broken his arm in a fall. He laughed and said that everyone in his family seems to have fragile bones. I don't know if it's genetic or just a coincidence, but the way he told the story made everyone smile. Even with his injured arm, he waited so we could have lunch together. It made me feel genuinely welcome.
Thế là cái xương mình là nó giòn. Vâng.
In many Vietnamese families, when guests visit or during special occasions, people don't always eat at a dining table. Instead, they lay a mat on the floor. Everyone sits together around the meal. There are no assigned seats. Being together is what matters. I've always loved meals like this. They create a feeling of closeness that's hard to describe. The first dish is beef stir-fried with ginger and fermented rice. Fermented rice is a traditional Vietnamese ingredient that adds a gentle sour flavor to many dishes. The beef is very tender. It has a rich flavor with the warm aroma of fresh ginger. I really enjoyed it. The next dish is beef tripe. It's one part of a cow's stomach. Only animals that chew cud have this type of stomach. It's simply boiled, then dipped into ginger fish sauce. It's crunchy, but not chewy. And this is pickled mustard greens. At first glance, it may remind you of Korean kimchi, but it's made differently and has a completely different flavor. The last dish is stir-fried pumpkin. It's a simple dish that many Vietnamese families grow up eating. During lunch, I learned something unexpected. Mr. Dao's wife can't eat meat, not because she doesn't like it, but every time she eats it, her body reacts badly. She told me that even a small amount makes her sick. I'd never heard of that before. It was the first time I'd ever met someone with that condition. Now, let me show you the family's livestock area. Mr. Dao is a very hard-working and careful man. He mainly raises breeding sows. He told me that raising sows provides a good source of income for his family. What caught my attention most was the way he protects the pig pens. He covers the pens with netting and fabric. The purpose is to keep flies and mosquitoes out. This helps keep the pens cleaner and reduces the risk of disease. I don't think many people take this much care with their livestock. Later, while we were talking, Mr. Dao showed me 2 old items. Both of them were once considered very valuable possessions. The first one is this watch. It is called an SK watch. Have you ever seen a watch like this where you live? He bought it sometime in the 1970s. Back then, only a fairly well-off family could afford a watch like this. What surprised me is that it still works well today. The second item is this Sony radio. He told me that buying it back then required a very large amount of money. The radio cost the equivalent of about 2 cheer of gold. In Vietnam, 1 cheer is 1/10 of a tael of gold. So this was not something an average family could easily afford.
Trăng băng đây. Đây này là trăng băng.
Today, it may look like just an old radio, but to Mr. Dao, it is still a piece of his younger years. Now, let's take a walk around the village. This is a typical village in rural Vietnam. Today, most new houses in Vietnam are built with concrete. But here, many old wooden houses are still standing after decades. Some of them are more than 20 years old. Even the brick floors have been here for a very long time. Yet everything is still well cared for. The people here are very welcoming. We stopped by a few homes along the way. Even though we had never met before, they warmly invited us inside. I think that's one of the nicest things about rural Vietnam. In many homes, I noticed cabinets filled with homemade rice wine, and this is a jar of honey soaked with papaya flowers. Many Vietnamese families use it as a home remedy for coughs. It's something you'll often find in homes like these. Along the way, I spotted a wild vegetable growing by the roadside. I knew it was edible, but many local people didn't know that, so I picked a handful. I wanted everyone to try it at dinner later. We then visited another family in the village. The elderly man was a war veteran. He was seriously injured and has been unable to walk for many years. Perhaps because he doesn't get many visitors, he was happy to see us. He wanted us to stay a little longer and talk with him. His son lives with him. His wife passed away at a young age due to illness. His children also struggle with health problems. Today, the family mainly depends on the veteran's government allowance to get by. Every family has its own story. I noticed a very small type of onion growing here.
Công nhận là ở mình không thấy có cái hành này đâu.
I had never seen this variety before. Mr. Dao's son-in-law is preparing to cook the wild vegetables we picked earlier this afternoon. I was curious to find out what they would taste like. By evening, Mr. Dao's son had returned home from work. Now, the whole family was finally together. Dinner was ready. These are the wild vegetables we picked earlier. They were cooked together with beef tripe. The first taste was slightly bitter. Then it became rich, followed by a gentle sweetness. I thought it paired surprisingly well with the tripe. Everyone at the table seemed to enjoy it. And this is grilled sea fish. It was simply grilled over charcoal. The fish was sweet and still tasted incredibly fresh. After dinner, Mr. Dao invited me to visit his in-laws. I had heard there were many interesting stories waiting for me there, so that's where we headed next. This house was built in 1982. More than 40 years later, the family still lives here. Everyone was happy to welcome us. Within minutes, the house was filled with laughter and conversation. This man once served as a soldier. He experienced war firsthand. As he spoke about those years, I could see a different look in his eyes. He spoke with great passion. Some stories made everyone laugh. Others left the room completely silent. I simply listened. I think everyone who has lived through war carries memories that are difficult for the rest of us to fully understand. The most memorable part of this trip would happen the next day. Mr. Dao's family was preparing for a tradition that has been passed down through generations in Vietnam. It is called a grave relocation ceremony. Several years after burial, many families move their loved ones' remains to a new resting place. Today, Mr. Dao's family was preparing this ceremony for his first wife. She passed away 8 years ago, and 3 years later he remarried. From early morning, relatives began arriving to help. In my hometown, the whole extended family comes together for occasions like this. Everyone has a role, and no one needs to assign the work. Everyone simply knows what to do. This is a traditional broom known locally as a ran broom, made from the dried branches of the weeping bekia plant. It is an essential part of this ceremony. Once the digging reaches the coffin, the broom is burned. According to traditional beliefs, burning the broom helps drive away any remaining spiritual energy. And tomorrow, I would witness this ceremony for the very first time. The men began preparing the pig. While they worked, everyone started guessing its weight. In the end, one man guessed it exactly right.
60 đâu, nhưng mà còn thừa cái chậu nữa. Thừa cái chậu đây thì đúng 57, 58 luôn.
It brought plenty of laughter. I also noticed the wooden stand they were using. It was built by local people themselves. It's simple, but very practical. Meanwhile, the women prepared vegetables and fresh herbs.
Cái này có cả rau má các thứ là cho rồi hết à?
Some were cooking.
Đấy, đang luộc rồi.
Everyone was busy, but the conversations never stopped. Laughter filled the yard. While I was filming, they invited me to taste some freshly prepared pork organs. This is a very common dish whenever a pig is prepared in Vietnam. It's served with a variety of fresh herbs. The flavor is rich and aromatic.
Đây, đấy, bát này bát to nhất.
But the dish that caught my attention the most was this one. In Vietnam, it's called thịt can. It is made with fresh pig's blood, mixed with pork and herbs. After it's prepared, it's left to set for about 30 minutes until it becomes jelly-like. However, this dish can be dangerous if it is not prepared and handled safely. There have been serious illnesses linked to eating raw blood dishes. That's why many people today choose not to eat it anymore. Even so, some people still consider it a traditional delicacy. What about you? Have you ever seen a dish like this before? Once all the food was ready, the family lit incense. First, at the family altar. Then, in remembrance of ancestors from both sides of the family. For many Vietnamese families, this is a way of showing gratitude and respect to those who came before them. And in just a few hours, the most important part of the ceremony would begin. For now, everyone shares a meal. This is rice porridge, which is somewhat similar to soup. It's made with rice, pork blood, and fresh herbs. It may not look very appealing, but it tastes much better than it looks. Get some rest, and prepares for the ceremony that will begin at 3 a.m. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. Everyone has already arrived. Everything is ready. This grave has been here for 8 years. Today, the family will move their loved one to a new resting place. Before anything begins, the ritual leader asks for permission from the local guardian spirits. Everyone stands quietly. No one speaks loudly. The atmosphere is solemn. After the ceremony, the family begins to open the grave. I stayed back and quietly watched. To be honest, I didn't have the courage to get too close. When the grave was opened, only the bones remained. Every step was carried out carefully and with great respect. The remains were then taken to the family's cemetery. This will be the new resting place. For many Vietnamese families, this ceremony is a way of honoring their ancestors. Traditions may vary from one region to another, but the respect shown to those who have passed away is always the same.
Đeo tại xung quanh lại nó chết xung quanh đây là cái bả này nó chết xung quanh không chọc sụp sạt luôn bà thấy đâu rồi mình về là
After the ceremony, I had another interesting experience. This time, it wasn't a meal. It was a tradition that has been part of Vietnamese life for generations. This is an areca nut, and this is a betel leaf. A small amount of lime paste is added as well. Then everything is wrapped together and chewed. Years ago, chewing betel was part of everyday life for many Vietnamese people. Today, it is much less common. But in many rural areas, especially among older generations, the tradition still remains.
Ăn vào cho đỏ môi mình môi ta.
This was also my first time trying it properly. At first, it tasted slightly bitter. Then it became warm with a mild, spicy sensation. If you're not used to it, you might feel a little lightheaded. But the feeling doesn't last very long.
Chó thử ăn trầu.
Betel also plays an important role in traditional Vietnamese weddings. There is a well-known Vietnamese saying, "A betel leaf begins every conversation." It represents respect, friendship, and a warm welcome. Even though fewer people chew betel today, its cultural meaning is still remembered. Now, let's take a look at today's feast. Relatives have gathered from many different places. After the ceremony, everyone sits down to share a meal together. To me, this is one of the most beautiful parts of Vietnamese culture. This is braised pork. Every region in Vietnam has its own way of making it. Here, the pork is cut into large pieces. After hours of cooking, it becomes incredibly tender. It's rich, flavorful, and melts in your mouth. And this is the beef. It's kept warm over a small portable burner. That way, everyone can enjoy it while it's still hot.
Rau cần này, ớt. Đây là món này xong thì sẽ là món này. Tôm. Đông. Vâng.
Everyone eats and talks together. Laughter fills the house. Maybe the most important part isn't the food. It's the chance for the whole family to be together again.
Cô cho cháu nhiều thế này thì làm sao mà... Thôi, cháu nhận người một tí thôi.
It was finally time for me to leave. Before I left, they packed a lot of food and gifts for me to take home. Mr. Dao's children also rode with me for part of the journey. When it was time to say goodbye, none of us wanted the moment to end. In just 3 days in Gaean, I experienced many things I had never experienced before. I met kind and genuine people. I listened to stories passed down through generations. And I learned more about traditions that are still preserved in many parts of rural Vietnam. If you enjoy discovering the real life and culture of Vietnam, I'd love to have you subscribe and join me on the next journey. I'm Hai. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.